Okay, so we are at 2-0 right now. We are going to be waiting for the game number 3 to start, with if again 3 to start, and that's going to be second home map for the Scraps. Let's see what's that gonna be. I don't really have any kind of idea what they could be attempting to start and try against their opponents, because right now they need to win all 3 remaining games if they want to have some kind of chance on the title. Otherwise, it's going to be spot they are 1 out, winning in the finals of the Frozen Times tournament. Alright, so I'm right now back with 7up, who can share some thoughts on this map that he has seen, and have you actually seen some kind of reason why the water was so convincingly lost, other than Themista going so surprisingly into the heroic age?
I'm not sure what happened to Aya. It was, I think, player just positioned his boats well, and the Mista made a lot more seed chips than the other team expected, and because player could like have that, he was like in that channel riverway, so when they all came into that concave that the Mista was defending in, they could have made a really good 3v2 and got a good KD and a trade efficiently. So
It was
I
really
think that helped.
interesting to see from the very start how they went for a bit different strategy, as basically the Scraps were building docks concentrating into the middle, quite obviously, whereas at TSM plus GSS they were going a lot more into the flanks, and it definitely paid off, exactly as you said, for a player who was quite surprisingly first then going any kind of military ships. He went for Pulsane. That's probably the first time I've seen that kind of strategy, and it seemed to have worked quite well for him. He was able to hold even Ayach with the disadvantage in the time, and of course he was able to gather a lot of extra resources from that, which helped him. That was pretty clever thought from him. So what do you think? Is that actually a viable strategy in the team game, or is it a bit too risky
Well,
for
yeah,
the water
definitely. I
fight?
mean, in patch 2.0, they recently nerfed the docks, right? So they're
Yeah,
a little bit less effective at defending. But if you get anywhere into a situation where it's that small of a channel, like a highland or even a marsh, you can really defend with docks there and just use your docks basically as an additional boat, get the upgrade first, and then just sort of defend and rely on positioning and micro. And it's a little bit of player why he is such a good team game player, considered one of the best. Just knowing when to do that versus an open water map, or what to start differently. So
it's looking like that the third map is going to be Vinlandsaga. So unfortunately, yet again, I'm going to be casting alone. So hopefully that's going to be game 4,
oh
and we're going
man,
to be able to cast with you second game today.
that
We've
would have been
cast in the first one.
a great game. I wish I could have been done. I wish I could have done that. Vinlandsaga is such a fun map.
Yeah, that definitely is. And I'm kind of curious really right now if they have improved the strategy from the semifinals. Because even though Magic's team did play it, I think they won it kind of fast at like 7 minutes against all the players, because Metallo somehow terribly misplayed and advanced at like 7 minutes or some such with Oranos.
Yeah, yeah.
That was
It's
like impossible.
it's easy to do if you're not well experienced and know what to do. The fish can spawn really bad if you dock on the wrong spot, then you can have one of those horror advances, and the game just takes a turn for the worse.
And it was really interesting to notice, because I was trying to exactly pinpoint what was the problem for him, why he advanced so late. And it actually was like almost impossible to see. I was comparing him with Green Sea Squash, who was advancing at normal time for Oranos. And the differences were just so
Right,
minute. It
right.
was really
I,
staggering.
I can tell you what happened. I've been in a similar situation. Mattel wasn't that experienced with the Rano, so you don't have quite enough food. So instead of just having like 30 seconds idle time, which you don't want to have, you just make another citizen, and all of a sudden your berries run out, and your fish isn't gathering as fast as you thought it was. So you just keep making that one extra citizen, and then you just start to form like panic, because this is a new environment for you. You never advanced at 6 minutes before with the Ranos. This wasn't part of the plan, and then everything just takes a turn for the worse. But I don't think we'll see that this game. I think we'll
true.
see a long game.
We probably should be, because we are seeing switches from JSS as Count from Count and D2 are making an appearance. They are probably gonna be coming in for the Oranosis, as that is a god that is quite popular on Vinlandsaga lately. And Temista is also making room, so who's going to be the last for JSS? I would be thinking it could be Earth as an Egyptian. Temista. Interesting. Really right now not sure what to expect, because I would be really thinking that Egyptian expert like Earth playing set would be definitely a great idea. I mean, Vinlandsaga, it seems to be basically the meta. But Temista seems to be sticking, so he might be going for, I don't know, some kind of Norse. We have seen it work. So that might be a bit of a clash of strategies in here between those two teams.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Vinlandsaga is that the map is so huge and there's so many resources everywhere that you can come back. If you open the game poorly, if you make the right decisions and don't lose too much, you can really use a lot of the resources on like the fish way up at the top of the map, or there's a lot of gold mines at the top of the map you can rebuild and make a comeback. So I think it's a really exciting map, and I think it's a map that favors individual decision making as well as team decision making, because there are so many resources and options for things to do.
Yeah, there are also quite important it is to fight for the water, which often actually players don't do who are not all that experienced with the map. Because of course, once you are owning the water, not only are you having a pretty good access to a lot of fish on basically on the flanks. There are on the flanks of the main island, you have pretty good economy, especially for Egyptians. You can place the docks basically with fishing boats as well. But of course, you are then having later into the game possibility of killing the base DCs of the opponents and even take them for themselves, and that can make a lot of difference.
Yeah, and the macro management for this map is sort of unique from any other map. So it's nice to see how the players macro on here. A lot of the times you'll see players with like 3,000 wood and 0 of one resource just because it's so chaotic.
So definitely looking forward to if somebody is going to be deleting oracles at the start. I have seen that used basically in like just 1 or 2 games in RTS League. And the reason is because if you delete one of them, you are not going to be housed that soon, right?
It's that's the reason, but it's a bad reason. You shouldn't do that. Yeah, the first thing you need to look at when you spawn on this map is how many berries you spawn with. I think the minimum you can spawn with is 4, which is the most problematic and trouble. There's a few different ways to get food in the early game. There's one, fishing, and 2, there are pigs that you can transfer from the mainland to your land with the transport ship. So if you spawn with berries, you either have to transport a villager over to the mainland, which isn't a very good decision to make because that's a lot of idle time, or you have to go and scout pigs and bring them back and gather from there. Or if you spawn with higher amount of berries, you can choose to do either one depending on how well your fish spawns.
Yeah, this also reminds me that it sometimes might be actually risky to be standing on your main or rather on your home island for too long, especially if you are not really going to be fighting for the water all that much, because of course then you're basically on a timer uh, with your possibilities on how to transport villages into the mainland, and you might be actually catching yourself in a pretty tough moment if you forget to transport the villages in time.
Yeah.
That's a lot of things actually on this map that you need to think about, which makes it quite interesting. And really, barely any game is boring on this map.
Yeah, for Atlantean, at least for Kronos and Aranos, maybe not Gaia, but the best build if you start 4 berries, the best build is to go 4 minute, and you get something like, depending on how good your fish variation is, you get something like a 420, which is better than trying to go for a 430 and not being able to advance. So taking that idle time and advancing earlier is much better than trying to make another citizen and then get that food.
Right now, having fun. in the game room on shortest loading time into the game, as we are still waiting for him, but as we are talking about it, he's just right now joining. So we should be about good to go with the game. Oh, just right now, it's going to be BRB on top of that. And so far the gods seem to be kind of expected. Count von Count to us Oranosis. That is something you would expect. And Temista going for Set. Oh man. In Temista's Egyptian, that's kind of rare in competitive game. That's
Yeah, the interesting thing about this map in 3v3, there's so much potential for different strategies. People say, oh, you must play Aranos. Aranos is the one to go. You have to play Aranos. Just because Aranos is so straightforward, the strategy is so straightforward. Just spam units, spam boats, just attack stuff. But there's so much opportunity, especially at a level like this, 1800 plus, for if you were to want to invest a lot of time to come up with a unique strategy off Atlantean gods, could really surprise somebody and dominate easily. So it would be kind of cool to see a 1900 plus player invest strategy and time to doing that. But then again, is that a good use of their time? Well, I don't know.
well, it's basically since it has been played in RTS League in the past seasons, you can basically tell that the meta is developing on the map all the time. So, and from the very beginning, people or other players were actually saying that this is Imba map for one strategy. And then you of course see all the variants cropping up. Every season something different. That's some kind of mindset of the players that the game is figured out, but well, it definitely isn't, especially on maps that are not really played in the random upset. So we are looking that we are going to be starting. So yeah, thank you for your intergame expertise and looking forward to more of your input after the game number 3.
Okay, good luck and good luck to the players. Should be a fun one.
It definitely should be, and of course, as I said at the start, the Scrubs need to win all the remaining games if they want to claim the title on this map, or rather on this map, on this tournament, on the Frozen Times, hosted by Frost Dornets and RTS-Sanctuary, and well, if they don't, if this game is gonna come to JSS plus TSM, aka spot the odd one out, they will, of course, win the championship, and after RTS League win for JSS in season 27, that was happening about month and a half ago, I think, were the finals. They will be definitely confirming their basically total supremacy over the team game scene in Age of Mythology. Yeah, everything ready for a number 3 game to start yet again. So far the gods seem to be sticking the same as they should, so not any kind of switch from Magic into the set, so he definitely does have some kind of plan with Dra. Yeah, just a one veto. But they have already responded to that, so not any kind of problem. And that looks like a much better spawn as far as DCs are concerned. Has definitely seen going through the middle in here, I can say, because those islands are slightly bigger on the right side. So that should be pretty much fine for all of the players to use and play on it. And we are right now looking at Temista spawning at the bottom. So I think it's a bit different as the players were switch around the teams and spot the odd one out in the first spawn were at the top. But that is not really going to be the case anymore. And we are seeing basically the same spawn of the berries. 6 of them, definitely pretty good advantage. And looking at the gold, he will need to be careful about the water, or rather his allies. He is in the kinda in the pocket, because this gold will not be gatherable from if they happen to lose the water, and the arrow ships are all over the place. In the meantime, let's check yet again, as Count von Count is going to be deleting one of the oracles. He is actually not. He transported just 2 of those, so he didn't wait for the last one. He's going to be just right now waiting for him, as he's of course going to be scouting with T2 as well. And T2, he did kill one of those, but he isn't as fast a house, that it will probably be the same case for the opponents as well, as right now we are looking at Magic's Island, who is having basically the same problem with the gold. But to be honest, unless the gold spawns right in the middle of the island, it's basically always going to be the risk from the water. Yep, that's why you shouldn't underestimate fighting for it like at all. Looking at yellow, who is right now returning back, he's of course having just 2 Oracle Scouts, red as well. So yep, that's 3 players deleting one of the early Oracles, whereas just 1 didn't, and the one that was Scout from Count. Temista is right now casting the vision, so that he is helping with a few more vision corners, or rather vision circles, and of course corners of the TC as well, so that he sees where everything is, and that's definitely helping him, because he right now knows that there are no Skrellings in the vicinity, and he knows what's between the TCs, and that is a lot of gold, so pretty good spot for them, but at the same time he doesn't see any kind of hunt. Just a few piggies, so not really all that ideal, and definitely will be looking forward to find something for him. And right now the opposing team is pulling a veto. Yep. Yeah, fortunately I haven't really checked the timer. It was 150, so that basically means that we should be continuing with the map at hand. No, they aren't. No, they aren't. Because he's looking at the map all wrong. Seems like that, but it wasn't, because the islands weren't ending in the middle of the map. Their islands were a lot more into the south, which meant that the TCs were basically divided. And we are, of course, starting right now exactly where we finished, and if you have a look, it's exactly not true. When you see the island of purple ends here, which means that the line is about this position, which means that there are 3, 4, 5, 6 PCs at the bottom. You see 3, 4, 5 with this one being basically on the line. So there is absolutely no reason for MHG to call it unfair. Absolutely no reason whatsoever. He just looks at the map wrong. He just switches it into the middle of the map, so something like this, so that he can call this TC and this TC on the other side, which is absolutely wrong. So you can see right now that Temista is going to be hammered by the Skrellings. Of course, this hyena is basically dead, because those guys are going to be following it till the end of the map, as he's just now discovering the relic, which is for villagers, kill animals in a single shot, which is not all that great. You can see Skrellings yet again killing even the piggies, not leaving anything alive at all. And oh well, unfortunately he's leading them right next to the Oracle. That's not great. Oh, luckily he is still sticking with the aggro, so he's gonna be saving this count from counts. A green dude, and of course with the second Oracle being at the bottom, he's also scouting on the water, basically going to be allowing Temista, who is quite luckily spawning on the left, to be owning all the economy that will come into the water on the left side. So definitely nicely played, as T2 is not really moving around all that much, having both Oracles at the same spot, and otherwise Shelty is just moving around, discovering on the relic for better house mana or hit points. Pretty great one for an Atlantean. With a decent amount of food in here, with the hunt and with the piggies. So we are also looking at pretty decent hunt right next to the shoreline of T2, who has landed very cleverly, because he has exactly seen the problem in the map, and that this is on the line, and he made a very clever landing a bit more to the north, so that he's basically trying to deny the TC, which is something that the opponents should have done as well, but they didn't. And that's not a map bug, that's just better play by spot the other one out. And that's the reason why they might be having advantage about their opponents. But in the meantime, Prometheus 26%, 34% for Fox, as we are looking at Magic, who is still not advancing. Opponents are right now 53. That seems to be pretty much the same. Green 33, he's a bit later. So potentially faster advances right now coming for the scraps, and let's see if they can be able to turn it into some kind of decisive early advantage for them. Wouldn't really expect that all that much, but we never know. In the meantime, Temista is continuing with scouting on the left right now with converted Wolfie, as he's also seen a lot of fishes on the left, of course. That's going to be helpful for him. And on the right, Fox is scouting a bit. He has already transported a lot of willies and is going to be establishing himself right next to Magic, who didn't even use right now Shifting Sense, but of course he isn't in the classical, so how would he use it? But I would be expecting that the Shifting Sense will come about this TC. Or maybe they're just going to be trying to surprise their opponents and really retake the map control. That is something that is very viable in this situation. And if they went for the TC in the middle, they really might be surprising their opponents. And if they take the TC, then basically turn the map around altogether. Well, Red is already having counter barracks and counter barracks, so that's going to be double turmas from him. Counter, counter also. So a lot of turmas from both Shelty and Fox. Whereas the opposing team is going for military counter, so that's Murmil with Turmas, and the other player is right now developing himself quite far away. This is interesting. You can see the JSS are very far away from each other, which is definitely not a great plan. I definitely more like this kind of position. You can see the shifting sands coming through the top side with the Mista at basically the same time. And that's, oh man, and do you know why he used the rain? Because he was trying to block Temista. He was trying to block Temista shifting sands, but he wasn't fast enough. So, yeah, that was the reason for the rain and why he went raw. But unfortunately, he wasn't fast enough and it didn't work out for him. So great plan. Yep, didn't work out all that much. Right now, Magic is having pretty nice TC right next to goal. Probably going to be attempting to move forward into this TC reasonably soon. And I'm not all that sure that the Mista going for this one is all that clever, because this one will be slightly better for map control, but he's thinking that it's going to be enough, and he will let the other players decide what's going to happen with the game at hand. Right now, of course, T2 going to be paying for his a bit more aggressive build-up in the middle, trying to basically steal the TC from the hands of the opponents, and of course, he's right now doubled, and not even able to finish with his counter barracks and military barracks. And that's absolutely horrible for him. That's going to be a huge advantage right now for the scrubs. And it might actually be a game deciding advantage, because of course it is somehow quite late, and somehow a reason for that could be because he's going for water fighting, and there is a pretty fun landing right now from Shelty and Fox, who are sending 3 Prometheans each into the town center of Titu, who is going for 1 villager, so he should be having enough to help defend against that, but he has seen it, and yep, right now going with the villagers and Prometheans to help defend, and be reacting exactly on spot. So Tito right now gonna fight for the water, as we are also seeing interesting stuff happening from the Vista on Sheltis Island. Oh man, this is different Vinlandsaga. This is very different in Vinlandsaga overall. And of course, on the water there are still a few fights happening all around the map, as we are also looking at shifting sands, and the TC seems to be pretty much safe. So yet again, pretty great idea from the scraps, but so far, pretty nice counterplay by GSS, and they are definitely getting a few lucky breaks in the game. Well, Magic right now going to be continuing fighting for the water, as this rush is basically deleted. The Mist right now having a bit of fun on the main island of Shelty, but he doesn't have really any kind of push on the TC, but he's forcing at least 3 villages not to get a goal, and that's exactly what he needs to do, because he's crippling the economy of his opponent quite totally, and let's see how's it looking on the mainland right about now. Count for Count seems to be quite nicely established, helping T2 basically get back on his feet, as we are looking yellow at red are quite close by to purple TC, being protected by all the houses, and the monument. So it's going to be very hard for his opponents to take it on. And looking at this tree line, that's actually pretty nice defense for the gold mine. And well, yep, that's gonna go quite well in the minutes to come for them. In the meantime, we are looking at Fox moving a bit further with the villagers, probably going for the hunt. I'll be thinking so. And if it's not going to be the hunt, it's going to be the TC. You're gonna see just now. It's really looking like that he's going for the back TC, which should be reasonably safe, because I don't expect any kind of attempt by JSS plus TSM to actually go for it. Right now it's basically just JSS, of course, so I can just lose the TSM. And second TC for Temista already being captured, and this is the much more important one, because of course this will allow him to be much closer to the middle of the map and potentially even disrupt the strategy from Magic, who will be attempting to go for the 2 TCs in the middle, as they are going to be crucial for his game. And that is definitely going to come. So far out that should be from all those Turmas by Shelty. Oh yeah, but still doesn't stop them. Stop the villagers from finishing the TCS, of course. That was almost finished, and the villagers were just into high numbers. In the meantime, he's having pretty decent amount of slingers, and gonna get ready at the very back with something, just not, because Fox is scouting very nicely, trying to see everything in there, as the missile is also just now parking the wolf in the forest. A lot of Turmas all around, basically trying to prevent the gathering from TCs, and he might be exactly preventing it at the bottom. As of course, those red dudes are the correct placement and will be disrupting count, especially with the reinforcements coming in. So that's going to be a whole ton of them. This is actually clever from Fox. because he was trying to lure the army away from the villages. He's trying to lure them away with the second flank right now coming in and catching the villages off guard. Oh, this is so well played. This is nice. He's actually gonna kill both of them, of course, because there is not anything left. Shelty going to be arriving in there as well. So not only will Count von Kahn not finish with the town center, he's going to be losing both of these citizens. Oh man, that's pretty tough start, and basically the only one with a good start right now for TSS is going to be Temista. So it's going to be all up to him to decide how the game will go. In the meantime, he's continuing with a bit of raiding in Fix's Island. Right now, going to be spitting the venom on them as he's getting rid of the animals first, of course. But on the water, we are not really seeing all that many fighting or that much fighting left, as players are still having a few boats, but not really doing anything else. As we are just looking at on land, the armies are waiting for something interesting to happen. Right now, of course, the mission on the left has been successful, stopping the TC from being built. And do we see anything from Green? No, just now going in. Going for a sky passage, and he will definitely have to build it on his mainland. So that's a clever idea, because he will need to produce a lot of them from his main TC. Unfortunately, he's also housed. He was definitely hoping for the TC, which would help him with that. Those Skrellings. Getting rid of the TC and of the piggies, of course. They so hate the pigs. So hate them. They are on the correct spot and definitely aiming to stop the TCs from coming up. But in the meantime, at the back, some more Skrellings trying to get rid of this TC from Fox, but he is at 2 and will be at 3 reasonably soon himself. So far, even though the Scraps actually wanted to restart this game, it's proving quite going quite well for them. Like, seriously well, as they are right again. Going to be stopping Shelty, it's going to be stopping T2 from capturing the TC. Oh. Yeah, that's like a nice bouquet. But he actually could be killing the citizen, and he should be. Even if he cost him basically half of his army, I think it would be well worth it. This dude is half dead. He probably didn't see how dead he is. We are looking right now at the temple from Temista, and that's kind of curious. But it might be signaling that he wants to go into the next age. Yeah, he definitely could, and right now seeing also that Count von Count going for another sky passage will be attempting to protect the villages slightly better, even with the extra army and the brave Skrellin trying to stop them. So the next big fight is probably gonna happen for the TC in the middle, as that's going to be super important for the next game and for basically whole map control, as Temista through heroic. We are looking at Teia from Count for Count. That's pretty much it. Some slot amphora, medium slingers, and copper shields for Temista. So that's about that. And we are also looking at pretty decent trading at the top, with Count for Count trying to discover that villagers building a TC, but it's going to be slightly too late. These heroic villagers should be finishing, unless the Murmilos target the TC. And right now, Durmas on the villager, please. He's almost half dead. Come on. And right now, yeah, they're going for the kill. So Fox was very close by to finishing it. Second villager is also in a pretty dangerous moment, but we are already looking at the defensive ancestors, because Temista is going for TC in the middle. Not really the one that we were talking about a bit earlier, but one that will basically secure the left part of the map, which is also something that is very valuable for them. In the meantime, the Gona ancestors is pretty huge bonus, and he's going for both of them at once. Oh man, and do they have some kind of counterplay? Not really. They're not really going to the next ages, and unfortunately they probably don't know the Scraps. You can see that magic is actually housed. The TC is attempting to be finished, and it should be, but not without loss of heroic villager. And oh man, that hurts. That most definitely hurts, as TC are still coming up. Going to be coming up, but on the water there is a bit more water fight to be had, as Magic is trying to raid Temista's economy, but not really all that successful so far. There's a bit more fighting in the middle, with Steam Faliambert and Leviathan having a bit of 1v1. But they are, of course, from the same team, so they are having just a 1v1 with Magic's boats. But they are at least keeping their opponents on their toes, which is exactly what needs to happen, as those ancestors are just now going to dissipate and go back into the graves. A pretty big fight right now happening at the top side, with Count for Count and Fox having a bit of fun together with a few villagers from Magic. Not exactly sure where he wants to go, but he probably wants to go for some TC, like the one at the top. And with Temista going for literally all of the TCs, he's quite interested in capturing everything on this map. And let's see if that's going to be the correct choice, because of course it will mean that not only his opponents will be having an encounter up or other town centers, but his allies either. So it's kind of double-edged sword, because if he doesn't execute properly the next gameplay, he's going to be basically shooting his allies into the foot, as they will be at just 2 TCs, and that will mean that they will not be having all that many possibilities how to make stuff happen. So he definitely has to be careful if he does have the resources to deal with that. In the meantime, siege works coming up in the middle, as Magic was attempting to take a TC in the top, but unfortunately for him, Temista was a whole lot faster, and with the army from Count von Kaun coming in there as well, as we are looking pretty decent lag, unfortunately, as he's definitely having to fall back right now, and it seems like that his only chance is going to be to basically kill the water economy, which might help him a lot, as without the food sources, those extra TCs will be useless. I'm fairly certain that Temista won't be able to use them fully, and he probably doesn't have anything right now, but Magic is already resigning, as he probably thinks he cannot do anything. But I certainly don't agree with that. I certainly don't agree with that. That was just poor resign right there. Because what you can do with those many TCs with a limited economy, you can do nothing. You are just built for like 2-3 TCs at this stage. Well, I call this a very early resign. I'm just right now going to be explaining how actually the division works in here to Magic. The map is between. Which means here. Which means exactly about here. And that means that the TC is online. Exactly online, which means that this TC is like a millimeter on the left. The next 3. Absolutely no TC disadvantage. Absolutely no TC disadvantage on this map. He just absolutely underestimated position, because the islands from him are a lot more souther, rather more south from actually the actual middle of the map, which means that he could have landed exactly where Titu landed. And if he did, he would be controlling exactly the part of the map. And that's a part of the magic on Vinlandsaga, because you need to land correctly, and they didn't. They just didn't play how the map spawned, and that lost the game for them. Titu did play to the map, and he transported a bit more to the right, basically to block the TC, and that's what Magic didn't do, and what he's complaining about, basically. So he's complaining about his inexperience with the map. That's kind of sad, really, but that's how it is. It's really pretty clear when you look at the map. So not really any kind of TC disadvantage. Due to the island placements, actually his team, the Scrubs, were having more land on the mainland. They just weren't able to use it correctly. It's sad, but that's how it is, and I'm really thinking that this resign was too early. I'm fairly certain that Temista wouldn't be able to handle so many TCs so soon, so that potentially could have been still play to be had, but they decided not to do anything like that. At any rate, let's check into the post-game. Astitu is winning, kinda interestingly, even though he was quite late to actually do something on the mainland. He was very late, as he was disrupted also by the raiding from the opponents. And they were playing quite well in the start, but they really screwed up the TCs for themselves. But that's what comes with experience. GSS do have more experience with this map, and it came through, as they have played it quite often in the RTS League. Not only as their choice, I think they have actually chosen it a few times, but yeah, they have played it very often in the later stages when it was preset. But Magic did quite well on the water, and that was also the reason why I think it was a bit too early resign. than it should have been. So right now, looking at the last thingy in here, we are also going to be proclaiming the champions of the Frozen Times tournament, spot the odd one out as they are winning 3-0 against the opponents from the scraps. So congratulations and pretty great job